Moto G7. It sounds like a high-end motorbike or a private jet, but no, this is not a luxury item. And while that may be the case, the G7 is a highly capable value smartphone with some enhancements and durability which focus on function over flourish, practicality over theatricality, and let's be clear about something from the top. You can snag this phone for $250. Maybe it's time you said,
"Hello, Moto."
Hey, so if any reviews here, any videos have helped you make a decision on anything, purchasing, not purchasing, hit that thumbs up, hit the subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you can be notified, be aware when the latest videos on products, gadgets, and services drop. So what does saying hello to Moto get you? Well, let me start off on the opposite end of that question. What doesn't it get you? You're not going to get wireless charging. You aren't going to get 3 cameras. You aren't going to get the top of the line processors. You're not going to get an AMOLED display, but here's what you do get. A splash resistant device with a 6.2-inch 2270 by 1080 display with thick bezels and a center camera teardrop notch. It's fine indoors, but could be a bit brighter outdoors. But at 405 pixels per inch, the human eye can really only discern a bit over 300. The icons and text on display look sharp and scale really well. I actually enjoy watching content on this phone rather than some others because its display is wider than others. Your mileage may vary there, but I'm not a huge fan of the trend of tall, really narrow displays. The right side of the phone is where you're going to find the ridged power button and the volume rocker. There's nothing on the left. The bottom has your 3.5mm headphone jack, USB-C charge port with 15-watt fast charging enabled. That means you're going to get about 9 hours of power with 15 minutes of charging, according to Motorola. Also on the bottom is a speaker, and that's it. Top of the phone, you'll find a SIM tray, which also doubles as the micro SD XC holder, and below that is speaker grill for calls. Around the back of the phone is where you'll find the fingerprint sensor, which worked reliably and consistently for me. That's also where you're going to find a 12 megapixel camera and 5 megapixel depth sensor for effects. And that's pretty much all you're going to get out of the hardware. Like I said in the beginning of this review, this is not a luxury device. But what is luxury? Embellishment on design, flourishes to fit and finish, high-end parts which provide for high-end functionality, little and big things which add perceived value or real value to an item. In this case, Motorola has been adding value to users via their user interface enhancements for some time now. Moto Actions, Moto Display, and Moto Voice are all user interface enhancements which are well thought out and add solid functionality to Android's operating system. If you're new to Moto devices, I'm going to walk you through them briefly because there are a few. Moto Actions are a gesture-based shortcuts which allow you to interact with phone functions. Quick Capture allows you to launch the camera with the twist of your wrist. Fast Flashlight allows you to turn the flashlight on and off with 2 chopping motions. One button navigation is an intuitive way to use the single pill navigation bar option in Android. Turn it on and then choose your swiping options to navigate the operating system. 3-finger screenshot is just what it sounds like. Once activated, tap 3 fingers on the screen to take a screen grab and go directly into edit mode. There are several more in the Moto Actions menu that you can choose from, but these tend to be my favorites. Moto Display allows you to do a few things. If you don't necessarily want to have an always-on active display, you can turn on Peak Display. What this option does is allow you to see notifications on your lock screen, but only when they initially arrive or when you interact with the phone by approaching it. You can then interact with the notification itself to dismiss it or launch and look at it. You can choose how much info is displayed here, as well as which apps are allowed to display information on your lock screen. Moto Voice is fairly basic here, but it can be set to automatically detect when you're driving and announce incoming calls and messages. It can be set to do the same automatically when it detects that it's connected to a supported device, like a Bluetooth earpiece, for example. One aspect of this feature, which is pretty cool, is that you can make Talk to Me activate based on location. So when you arrive to the office, it knows and will automatically begin announcing incoming calls and texts based on geolocation. Now let's get to that camera. What do you get for $250 worth of smartphone camera technology? Quite a bit. As I've stated in other reviews, you won't be blowing up 8x10s of these images or making billboards, but you do get a phone which produces some pretty darn solid captures at this price point. Under ideal conditions, the rear and front facing cameras both take solid photos, of course. Images are sharp and colors look great. Saturation may be a bit much for some folks' eye, but I tend to like warmer images personally. You can see some of that heavy color saturation in the selfie I took in the middle of the day with plenty of sunlight. But in this image on my patio, the camera does a solid job of balancing the shaded areas of the image against the brighter areas and keeping the contrast in balance. The shadows on my balcony were actually darker, but that sky was so bright that the camera compensated, but did so without losing a great deal of detail in the stucco, fence posts, or that tree in the background. At night, the camera sensor still does a quality job of capturing images which have solid color reproduction and contrast, even if they can be a bit noisy in the darker areas. And while you don't get a night shot mode with the G7, you do get a manual mode, so you can adjust ISO, shutter speed, some other functions in low light situations to get the most of what light you do have. So, are you ready to say hello, Moto? As a father of 3, I'm in love with this phone as a device for tweens, teens, and anyone living in your home who doesn't have a job to buy their own phone. Sure, I know a lot of parents buy their kids iPhones, but when my children were younger, I wasn't that parent. I actually bought my son's previous generation versions of the Moto G series, and they were just fine. And they've gotten even better since then, this G series. The great thing is that this phone is fine for people with a job who just don't want to spend a lot on a phone. Those folks do exist, despite what manufacturers would try to sell us. They really only want a phone so that they can make calls and send the text and maybe snap the occasional photo if some extraordinary situation arises. For that user, I'd say you should definitely say,
Hello, Moto.
hey, if you have any questions, anything I didn't address here, maybe in the review, please leave a comment in the comments section below and I will get to it absolutely and help you out. We don't take it lightly that you're watching this video when there's so many things you could be binge watching in your day. So we appreciate you. Look forward to seeing you on the next one.